I was challenged to do Gnolls, and, well, challenge accepted. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. And today we are going to talk about Gnolls and changing them up, so that way they don't necessarily have to be that evil alignment, chaotic evil specifically. But before we get into the specifics and all those wonderful details, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit that subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or, if you're already listed on such a legendary roster, you dashingly awesome adventurers you, then go on down to hit the subscribe, or hit the like and share button to help spread the word about the channel far and wide. And now, with all my blunders out of the way, let's go ahead and dig into this. So, when it comes to Gnolls, the way their society is typically described is they form tribal groups, and they're also incredibly violent and incredibly lazy, and they like to take a lot of slaves to oversee and do a lot of the day-to-day running of things, and also serve as food for the larder overall. They tend to view all other creatures and societies as prey, especially if they're in any way vulnerable. You know, it's Gnolls, it's jackals and hyenas and the like, and they use hyenas. They domesticate various kinds of animals. So, some of the traits there are just that aggression, that strength. I mean, they're very, very strong creatures, and they're raiders. They go on all different kinds of raids. So, those are some of the traits that stuck out in particular to me. So, high strength, raiders, and engage in taking slaves from frequently, not even from time to time. So, what are some real-world cultures that did similar things? Well, first one that came to mind for me were the ancient Scandinavians, the Vikingers, going on Viking raids and the like. That seems to fit pretty nicely, and it opens up some interesting things. And for example, the Vikingers obviously used the infamous longboats and large round shields to help with their combat ability to project their strength. And on top of that, they favored axes, which definitely are a high offense weapon, which pair really nicely with the shield, because shield is obviously, that's so much defense right there. It helps to compensate for the fact that your typical axe does not have a lot of defensive capability to it. And then that naval aspect that they had, using their longboats and navigating, that's just something else that you can add in with Gnoll culture. And it fits right along because when the Scandinavian peoples went on their Viking raids, they took a lot of loot, they sacked everything that they could, and they also would take slaves. It was a pretty frequent thing. Now, their reasons for doing this were not, weren't entirely evil. I mean, the regions that they lived in, very mountainous, very cold in some places, and having access to good quality farmland was definitely a very expensive prospect. So raids were a way of doing this. And also, raids were also a way of thinning out the population. You have the whole thing of Vikings dying with their blades in hand, ready to go on to Valhalla to feast with heroes and Odin until the end times came about. Until Ragnarok happened. But there's that whole mythology there. It's just absolutely wonderful and fascinating stuff. But, no, this all ties in together really nicely. This was a very aggressive time for the Scandinavian peoples, raiding over through into Russia, then England, along the coast of France. They made their way down into the Anatolia region, what we now call Turkey. These guys went everywhere, and to top it off, you have the Viking shield maidens. Now, there's some debate as to how active they were in combat, but I personally tend to think, and I guess, maybe it's my own biases and the lens with which I view things, but I think they took on a more offensive role than some people might suggest. I mean, some people suggest that they were more trained to defend the homestead while the men went out raiding, and certainly that's possible. But I think that they also went out on the raids, particularly if, they showed that they could keep up with the men very well. And very likely, some of them really, really could. and I wouldn't be surprised to find that out. The reason why I think that is just there's a lot of implicit biases with a lot of the researchers who dug into this. White European Christian men, looking at this with, obviously the men did all the raiding, and you see that happen a lot with a lot of other cultures, like I'm mispronouncing it, but the Anabugesha, the wives and daughters of samurai. There's plenty of evidence out there to suggest that they actually went out and performed combat in a large variety of roles, not just defensive. But I'm digressing. I'm getting off topic here. Point is, we have an opportunity here to really amp up the warrior aspect of the culture, really lean into that for the Gnolls. And not only that, not only were they great navigators and sailors and also raiders and warriors, but they were also very skilled farmers once they had access to good farmland. When they began settling in England and really setting themselves in, they did a lot with that land. They did a lot to make it good, viable farmland. I mean, the soil was good, but still, it's another aspect that we can add in there. And also, the ancient Scandinavian peoples were very, very particular about how well and how well kept their hair was. So they would do a lot to maintain it. I mean, they had all kinds of methods of grooming it, cleaning it, making sure it was free of lice and any other critters that might try to infest the area. And so they did a lot to really clean and stylize their hair in incredible ways. So there's a lot that you can do, especially since that Gnolls typically have those manes running from the tops of their heads down their backs fairways. You can do all kinds of intricate braid work, and you can use that to indicate different statuses within their society, depending on the types of ties, knots, or fixtures that might be part of it. You can do a lot to really make the culture that much more intricate. And if you decided you still wanted them to be evil, well, I mean, taking slaves is not really recognized as being a great thing, but it's something that was done, unfortunately. But that's the nature of the time period. Or you can lean away from that a bit if you wanted to and just focus on the other aspects of their society. I mean, we are doing homebrew to make our worlds more unique, distinct, and interesting. You could set them at a point where the Vikingers were kind of falling out of style, where they were settling in a little bit more into being farmers and merchants. I mean, again, these folks are reaching from Scandinavia out to England, France, down to what we now call Turkey, the Anatolia region. These guys would be bringing goods back from all over the place and trading in all sorts of interesting places. So even if going on raids was falling out of style, being a skilled and capable warrior was not. And being a shrewd merchantman would definitely be incredibly useful for them as well. So you could easily have barbarians and fighters and bards mixed in with all of this, or rangers definitely. So you have a lot of options to play with there with just the ancient Scandinavian cultures alone. And another option, another culture for you to lean into would be the various Native American cultures, but in particular, the different plains-dwelling people who were much more nomadic than, say, the Iroquois peoples or the Cherokee. These were groups of people that knew how to move and survive in the plains, and they would follow the buffalo herds and do buffalo runs and, make use of those hides, those bones, and definitely all the meat and sinew. These were things that these are things that you can very easily incorporate into these cultures. I mean, the usage of eagle feathers, the beadwork and leatherwork alone is absolutely incredible. Seeing these old implements and tools, it's just stunning what people came up with. And I'll admit a little bit of bias there as well, part Salish. So, it's delving into those cultures is something I really, really value. It's probably why I like doing this in the first place anyways, is learning about, digging into my own heritage and the like. But still, there's lots of options available there for you. I mean, you have all different kinds of things, like the trials and feats required to become a war chief. Like for the Crow people, you had to capture an enemy soldier alive, steal their horses, and Can't remember what the third one was, but the last one to have done this was in World War II against the Japanese, and that gentleman recently passed. It's incredibly sad, but he's the last war chief for those people. I believe it's, oh goodness, now I need to look this up. Is it the Crow or is it the Blackfeet? I want to say Crow. Be right back. And I'm back, and I was right, it was the Crow. Joseph Medicine Crow passed in 2016, so semi-recently. But absolutely incredible, and you can, again, this is something that you can incorporate pretty readily and pretty easily within this homebrew Gnoll society. I mean, it fits really well. I mean, these are a rugged, tough people with a rich cultural background, and that easily fits for Gnolls and definitely leans them a bit further away from that evil alignment. You could still keep it in there if you so chose, but the goal of this is to try to create new, distinct, and interesting cultures with pre-existing races that are provided here. So definitely dig into this and just play around with the alignments and change things up a little bit to make things that much more engaging and interesting, fresh and new for your players. Certainly, I hope this has helped. But what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Do you like today's video? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know your thoughts down below and hit those like or dislike buttons. I hate that they have changed the way dislike displays. That only serves to help larger corporations, and honestly, I like knowing when somebody dislikes something I've done. Even more so if they can leave their thoughts along with why. But go ahead and do so, and if you're new here to the channel, go on down there and hit that subscribe button and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.